Hi, I'm Aryn Morell, winemaker at Tenor Wines, and today we're going to be tasting the 2010 Sauvignon Blanc. This is actually a wonderful thing for me, as we've been making Sauvignon Blanc for a number of years and just haven't made a wine that we thought was really worthy of the Tenor label. So this is the first ever white wine that's been produced under this label, and we decided that if we were going to do white wines, that we needed to do something unique and different from what most people are used to seeing in either Sauvignon Blanc or Chardonnay, which is the other white that we have. In this particular vintage, what we decided to do was not really pick a style. We didn't want Sancerre, crisp, flinty. We didn't want Loire, which is riper, richer. We certainly didn't want California, which is going to be more grassy and herbal. And we don't have any Muscat clone Sauvignon Blanc in Washington yet, so we don't have the ability to really pick and choose stylistically what we want to do based on clonal selection. We essentially have to do that with site and then how we want to produce the wine within the winery itself. So what we decided to do with this, which was a little bit different from most other people, this is 100% barrel fermented. The year gave us great natural acidity, it gave us great intensity, and so as a result, normally Sauvignon Blanc does not hold up real well to being in barrel. And from my experience, the tone of the barrels just seem to overwhelm the fruit that's naturally available in Sauvignon Blanc, so it tends to dull down the aromatics. Well, in this particular vintage and in this particular site, everything was so ripe and so intense, we get such a small yield, typically between 1.5 and 2.25 tons per acre for Sauvignon Blanc, which is probably half of what most people would normally get from a location like that. So as a result, we get much more concentration, much more intensity, and that helped balance out the barrel tone, which you can certainly tell it's there, but it's not overwhelming the fruit by any means. And it also gives us a much more exotic tone to the wine. We've got little bits of barrel spice. There's this kind of underlying spiciness to it. I wouldn't call it musky, but I would call it Muscat-like. And most people who have had some Sauvignon Muscat out of California know that there is kind of this very glycerin-y tropical tone, but there's this underlying kind of spicy musk to it. And I actually find that incredibly appealing, and I've always been frustrated that we could never really accomplish getting that tone into some of our wines. So, we used a proprietary toast through Sylvain on this wine. It was 100% Sylvain Blanc barrels. And I know the people at Sylvain will probably be happy about that because they can say there was no interference from anyone else. But essentially what they've done is they've worked with wineries in Bordeaux to narrow it down to a particular toast for their white varieties. They don't actually offer you any options. You can't get medium plus or heavy or light. They basically say, here's the barrel and this is how it is. And I think it's spectacular. So, touche to those guys. But essentially, we wanted something that was just flat out different. And I've had a lot of people try this wine and just, say there is absolutely nothing like it. And in all honesty, there is nothing like it. So certainly get a little more of the star fruit. We get grapefruit, we get nectarines, we just get, a multitude of aromatics that are not normally in Sauvignon Blanc. And there is some other proprietary things we did do in the winery, and I won't go through a lot of that here, but it was pretty labor intensive what we did to the fruit prior to getting it into barrel. And as a result, I think we've just got much more palate presence on this wine. It's not light and dainty, it's actually quite impactful. It doesn't weigh down on your palate though, it actually lifts up because of the nice acidity. So typically we have a slightly more yellow-green hue to Sauvignon Blanc, but because of the barrel fermentation, this actually kind of has a bit of kind of a yellowy golden color to it. The other thing that you'll notice when you get this wine is it's unfined and unfiltered. And what that means is essentially we didn't fine it with any fining agent like bentonite or gelatins, and we did not run it through any sort of filtration membrane to remove solids from it. We like to keep all of the reds and all of the whites and all the wines in the Tenor program unfined and unfiltered, so you can get the truest sense of what we had from the start and what we have at the finish. Because a lot of times when we do start with wines in the winery, we begin with a wine that we know at the end is going to be fined and or filtered. And as a result, the texture and the aromatic of a wine after being filtered is not quite exactly what it was prior to that. And we wanted to give you the purest sense of Sauvignon Blanc. And the only way that we could do that is keep it as pure as possible, which was to not fine it and not filter it. So we'll give it a quick swirl. Again, for those of you that like flowers, which is probably most of you, there is this, amazing floral aspect that seems to sit underneath all that apricot, grapefruit, there's a little bit of pineapple, guava, and that floral essence basically just lifts all the fruit up. There's a little bit of kind of a smoky flint underneath it from the barrel tone. But for me, certainly my favorite Sauvignon Blanc I've made to date. And I think this is one of those wines that once you get a chance to smell it and try it, you'll agree it is an incredibly special product. So give it a quick taste. So this wine is rich, it's dense. A lot of times wines that are barrel fermented, they do pick up a lot of natural structure from the oak tannin itself. There's not a lot of that, but there is enough that this wine will actually age incredibly well. It's got enough palate presence that it'll probably age more like a Chardonnay. The acidity helps because it'll give us more of a, I think, a Burgundy-esque aging period, which means probably it'll show best within the next 2 to 4 years, and then we'll probably age to 6, 7, 8 years old. So normally Sauvignon Blanc is good for about 24 to 36 months max. Some of the Loirs, like Dagenot and their Selects, they honestly don't get good until they're about 2 years old, and I think this is going to fall into that category. It's not lean, it's a big wine, so certainly something that is not going to be a daily drinker. This is something that if you have a special dinner and some special friends, certainly this is a bottle to get out and wow them with. But if you want to get a hold of this wine, it comes out in November 2011. There is 93 cases of it produced, so it is very limited, and you can get it through Tenor's website at tenorwines.com.